Welcome to the Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at pitching for DraftKings and FanDuel tonight. Overall, you got some strong options up top, and even some nice value pieces. I mean, some of these DraftKings prices, as far as guys like David Price or Carrasco go, pretty friendly.
Very friendly, at least in terms of David Price, like you mentioned. So, I mean, they are harder than FanDuel still, but at the same time, you take what you can get.
Yeah, I mean, I don't find it to be that bad. Look at the first one here, Dodgers and Phillies, Scott Kazmir versus Jake Thompson. Kazmir is one of the ones who is noticeably different from FanDuel, where you look at Kazmir, I mean, he's 9K, DraftKings 7,600. He's much more of a tournament play for me on FanDuel. DraftKings, he's fine cash, SP2 option, just given the price and the matchup against the Phillies.
Yeah, I'm kind of off the Casimir train just in general. I've played him in plus matchups before this season multiple times, and they never seem to end up how you want. So, I mean, we've seen this Phillies lineup be pretty feisty before, and I don't know. In theory, this is a good matchup, but I'm not in.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Phillies here, dead last in WOBA against lefties, near a 23% strikeout rate. Obviously, Kazmir has been a little bit more home run prone this year, 1.41 homers per nine, which has been an issue at times. But also the strikeout rate is up about 2% from his career norm. Struck out 6 against the Phillies last time out, 2 earned runs, didn't grab the win. But obviously with Jake Thompson on the other side of him, you look at the Dodgers offense projected for over 5 runs. Dodgers big favorites there. I don't mind him in cash on DraftKings, but much more of a tournament play on FanDuel.
Oh, it adds up. It adds up to a quality tournament starter, but I'm off the Casimir train.
As far as Thompson goes, not a guy I'm looking to use against this heavily lefty team. Friendly ballpark. It's just something to stay away from.
Yeah, no, totally agree. This isn't something you're looking to target, especially with that lefty-heavy lineup for a pitcher who's, inexperienced. So that's a tough lineup for him to go against. Expect 3 to 5 earned runs,
Yeah, definitely. Red Sox and Orioles next here. You got David Price versus Dylan Bundy. David Price on the hill. I'm much more of a fan of his price on DraftKings than I am over on FanDuel. 8,600 there on DraftKings. Price is obviously one of the boomer bust plays for me tonight. But just given the fact that this Orioles offense really isn't that great against lefties, you also look at Price against the Orioles this year. 1.4 strikeouts per inning, has seven double-digit strikeout games. So there is some upside here, especially against this Baltimore team. But obviously, he's going to need to limit the damage, which he has done in one start, but obviously the other start he given up 5. It's kind of one of those things where it's either or here.
Right. Exactly. It's going to be an either or. I don't see this going mediocre. I feel like he's either going to get shelled or sort of have a pretty good outing. So I like him as a tournament guy, especially at that price we mentioned, 8,600. I think that's very worthy of it, at least on DK.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at Baltimore, I mean, 26th in WOBA, 21.5% strikeout rate. They also rank 22nd in ISO, which is actually kind of surprising, I guess, just because they, obviously they're one of the top home run hitting teams in the league. Yet they do struggle so much with southpaws this year. But Price, boomer bust play on the road there is a small favorite. Obviously, Bundy on the other side, no guaranteed run support, but you do like his chances a little bit more.
I kind of like Bundy and what I've seen the last few games. I hate this matchup for him, but I mean, I'll be damned if he's not a decent play at 4,600 based on what he's done in his first 4 or so starts on the year.
No, I'm in complete agreement. I mean,
Yeah.
I could definitely see him going maybe 6 innings, maybe to 2 to 3 earned, 5-6 strikeouts.
Right.
I definitely am. I think obviously FanDuel, he's not really much of a play there at 7,500. But yeah, DraftKings, I think because of that matchup, they priced him down quite a bit. Much more intriguing there.
Mm-hmm.
So deep GPP option. I mean, really for both those guys.
Yep.
White Sox and Indians next here. Carlos Carrasco versus Anthony Renato. Indians big minus 235 favorites there. I'm a big fan of Carrasco tonight. Obviously coming off a strong matchup here. Hard not to like him against this White Sox offense that just continues to falter. And really, as a home favorite there at 8,700 on DraftKings. Once again, I like his price much more than FanDuel, but he's definitely cash playable on both sides.
I agree that strikeout rate, especially of late, his last two starts, 8 and 9 strikeouts against mediocre offenses, but around the range we're looking at for this White Sox team here as well. So, I mean, he's inconsistent with the strikeouts, but still above average when everything's considered. 8,700 on DraftKings. I mean, that's a decent price for me. The 98 on FanDuel makes me question it a little bit more, but at the same time, I kind of dig it as a tournament move. So I think both cash on DK, more of a tournament guy for FanDuel.
Yeah, I think just given the fact that, I mean, on FanDuel you do have Darvish, who's just 400 more, who for me on FanDuel is a strong cash option. And then when you got Price and Casimir right around there, well, it kind of fits in. There's a lot of GPP guys up at the top on FanDuel, and it's the first time in a while. I mean, usually we see some of these guys, they're a little bit easier priced. Like I wasn't expecting Casimir to be 9K. But I guess when you look down at the end, we'll get to a couple of guys later that you can take some shots on as far as cheap guys for FanDuel.
For sure.
Renato, not a guy to really look at tonight. Weak right-hander going up against this Indians offense. It's just one of those simple fades.
Yeah, I'm not touching him. That's pretty easy, I think, especially a righty against the Indians is a no-go, no matter who it is, especially if it's Anthony Renato.
Hey, well, you know, you didn't knock Scherzer there the other day. You can't just say any righty.
Any righty, unless it's Scherzer. So how about that?
All right, that's better. Royals and Tigers next here. Anibal Sanchez versus Yordano Ventura. Neither of these guys I'm really looking to gravitate towards. Ventura obviously has had some decent starts against Detroit before. In the similar price range, I just kind of prefer another arm who we'll kind of get to a little bit later. I'm not on either of these guys.
No, I'm not. My phone is going bonkers right now. All right. And you know when you connect it to your computer and it like goes off?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is the worst. Anyway, Yordano Ventura, I'm not sure how much I'm going to be targeting him. I think that's sort of a situation where he's going up against a tough offense. And even though, relatively speaking, it's an okay matchup, I'm probably just not going to touch him even at that reduced price. And Anibal Sanchez, definitely not touching him even against a weak offense.
Yeah, I'm not either. Anibal Sanchez has just been a guy who I just can't get around to use. And obviously, I know we talked about the Royals being one of the weaker offenses, but still definitely capable of getting to a guy who's been as bad as Sanchez has been.
Right. It's kind of like you start good pitchers against them, but they can still be annoying to a guy like Anibal Sanchez.
Yeah, definitely. Twins and Braves next here. Kyle Gibson versus Mike Foltynewicz. In this one here, I mean, Kyle Gibson's kind of an interesting dive down option at 4,900.
He really is, especially against this offense. Obviously, the projection's all crazy and everything, but he's had a few high upside games. And I mean, one against the Red Sox, one against the White Sox. So maybe there's a Sox theme I'm not aware of, but he's had some good starts this year, Kyle Gibson. So I'm not totally out on this at, 4,900. I think that's a reasonable punt play on DK.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you're looking at him. You're not obviously looking for anything crazy. It's a salary relief play, a decent option to get the win there. In my opinion, Vegas doesn't certainly agree, but I do see the Twins kind of getting to Foltynewicz quite a bit. But outside of that, I mean, I think Gibson, because he's not really a weak arm against lefties, he's kind of more standard, more average. I'm okay with it in this matchup there.
I agree.
Obviously, high risk, high reward, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he could give up 6 runs, and I wouldn't bat an eye. But at the same time, there is, he could just get through this game pretty easily as well.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as the Mike Foltynewicz goes, I'm not really looking to use him. This Twins offense just continues to be something I just stay away from, actually.
I think so too. Yeah, them and the Rays are really of late teams that have kind of emerged and not someone I want to target.
Yep, definitely. Marlins and Reds here. Andrew Cashner versus Homer Bailey. Both these arms I'm actually slightly intrigued with, more so Homer Bailey. And Homer Bailey's the cheap guy on FanDuel that I like quite a bit at 7,700. He's one of those guys in that range below 8K I feel the most comfortable using. And you just look at what he's done, obviously in just a couple starts here, been very solid, missing a lot of bats, solid ground ball rate, has a lot of homer. And against this team, I mean, this Marlins offense has been kind of slipping back into more of the middle of the road. Obviously, there's still a couple bats to watch out for, like in Ozuna, Gordon, Yelich. But outside of that, I mean, there's not a ton he's going to have to really put up with.
No, there's certainly not. And I guess the question is, do you think the Marlins are more like the Brewers, and the Padres, or are they more like the Cardinals? And I feel like at this point, without Stanton, they're more like those first two I mentioned. So, I mean, you always worry about sort of Christian Yelich against righties, but other than that, I feel like this is a pretty exploitable matchup.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, obviously a bad ballpark. He is a small favorite. I mean, Andrew Cashner on the other side. And Cashner's the guy because he's so cheap and because this lineup could be potentially without three other top five hitters. It's like, okay, you have Kozar, Joey Votto. Those are probably the only two up top. And then it's like, that's it. I mean, you got nothing else. I mean, obviously Tucker Barnhart hit a grand slam last night, but
I know, I saw that. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
outside of that, I mean, Cashner's a guy who's kind of a boomer bust play against a potentially weak lineup.
I'd rather just go with Kyle Gibson probably, but I do see the logic there.
Yeah, so I think both those arms, I mean, obviously tournament plays at best. Homer Bailey, not quite cash. If he was maybe a little bit cheaper, I can consider it on DraftKings, but he's more of a FanDuel play for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Brewers and Cubs next here. John Lester versus Jimmy Nelson. Lester, obviously, one of the top options as far as paying up that you can roll with, and I'm certainly okay with doing that. Obviously, his last start against Milwaukee didn't really go as planned, but it wasn't in Miller Park, and Lester on the road hasn't been as good as he's been at home, allowing a 254 WOBA. Obviously, the strikeout rate is high on both sides here, nearly identical given the fact that Milwaukee does strike out at a 24% rate, which is pretty much identical to Lester's strikeout rate this year, potentially without Ryan Braun. So it's still a lineup that I do worry about just a little bit, but I definitely like Lester tonight.
The strikeout upside nulls any worry that I have, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, the upside's just too high there. I think the floor's relatively high as well. I'm firing away with Lester as the top cash option, and I'm not really looking back.
My only small concern with him is the fact that there are a couple of guys that, you get on base. Obviously, Lester's not the best at holding guys on. Could create a little bit of a trouble for him in certain spots. But, if he's able to limit base runners, he's going to have a solid start. If he's not, I do worry about him paying off that price tag, just given the fact that maybe 3 to 4 earned runs is something that could be a potential, option for him tonight.
Definitely.
As far as Jimmy Nelson goes, I'm not looking to use him here. Cubs with the highest run total on this night's slate. And Nelson's a guy who pitches worse, actually, outside of Miller Park. Bad against lefties, has been even bad against righties this year. No thanks.
And I'd say usually when the top three guys in the order are over 5K on DraftKings, probably a good indicator that you should fade the pitcher.
I think so too. Although we'll be fair that the Cubs are usually priced up again over 5K. I mean, pretty much every time.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. But just generally speaking.
A's and Rangers next here. Yu Darvish versus Sean Manaea, and Yu Darvish here. Continues to be a solid guy, and the prices really aren't that bad here against Oakland. Obviously, Oakland doesn't strike out a ton. But given the fact that Darvish's strikeout rate, for a career is over 30%, you don't really worry too much. It definitely evens things out. Heavy favorite there at home. You expect him to get a lot of run support off Manaea. Darvish is just kind of one of those other strong options in all formats.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. It's a really good start for him. Really good matchup. Obviously, the A's versus righties not nearly what they are against lefties. So I definitely like that matchup quite a bit, and he's a top cash option as well.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, I mean, Oakland 27th in WOBA. And Darvish is a guy who's been fine in that Texas ballpark that we know is a friendly hitter's park. He's certainly managed it well throughout his career.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as Manaea goes on the other side, Manea's been pitching a lot better. I'll definitely give him that, but still struggles to give up the long ball. Six in his last four starts, so it's obviously a problem there in Texas against this offense that does feature a lot of right-handed bats. I had to stay away from.
Yeah, for sure.
Mets and Diamondbacks next year. You got Zach Godley, John Neese. I don't want either part of these guys in that ballpark, and I actually like this game quite a bit for offense.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, I just don't see myself really just investing in either. I can't do it. As mentioned, if Neil Walker's out of that Mets lineup, it's like super exploitable, but at the same time, I don't want to start Zach Godley either.
No, I mean both those lines relatively weak, and in that
Yeah.
ballpark, it should be a pretty high scoring game.
Right.
Mariners and Angels. Tyler Skaggs versus Cody Martin. Obviously, Skaggs has been remotely solid this year. I'm outside of just one start. I like his price tag really on both sites. 8,300 there on DraftKings, 6,700 on FanDuel. I mean, definitely a reasonable price against the Mariners offense that against lefties. I mean, 19th in WOBA, 21.2% strikeout rate. Obviously, you have to watch out for Nelson Cruz there. Friendly ballpark. I'm certainly okay with him in tournaments.
Yeah, and man, um, the problem is he had that bad start against the Mariners. Two homers, four earned, and nine hits in 5 innings. So I think this is a little different situation. I kind of like him. I think he's a nice tournament guy. Um, but I do have a little caution. But overall, I mean, I think the matchup's great. As you mentioned, those splits versus for lefties against the Mariners is really strong.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones where there is definitely some risk to it. And obviously, he's coming off an even worse game against Cleveland before that. But you look at the games before, I mean, obviously against Boston and Kansas City, 13 strikeouts. The one thing, I mean, that I do worry about a little bit is that he hasn't missed a ton of bats yet. The strikeout rate is high, which is bound to kind of catch up with you.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that is something that is happening, but that's obviously why he's just kind of a tournament play.
Definitely.
As far as Martin goes on the other side, not a guy I'm looking to use. I actually like some of these Angels bats at their prices.
Yeah, I do too. Once again, I think a Cole Calhoun is the guy that you want to look at in that lineup. But overall, yeah, not looking at Cody Martin.
Let's kind of wrap things up with the pitcher nail down. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for all great tools and content.